Greetings, amazing people, and welcome to a new episode of Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. I hope each and every one of you is warm and well. Peace and abundant blessings to you and your families. I want to start off with a big, sincere thanks. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for learning with me. Some of you know that I'm a teacher by profession, but most critically, I'm a learner. I'm a nerd. I love to learn. And we must commit ourselves to being lifelong learners. So I'm trying to learn everything I can. I believe that there is power with knowledge, and I believe also there is even more power with applied knowledge. So we are learning and teaching together. So let's learn together. This episode is titled Beyoncé Business and Banking: Spiritual Lessons from Terry Cooley's Story. And I have to sort of preface whatever I say with I do not know Beyonce. I do not know Mr. Cooley. I just saw this story on the internet, like most of you, and I it resonated with me, and I'm going to get into why. And I just wanted to share some lessons we can learn. But I want to emphasize the episode really is not about Beyonce, because I don't know Beyonce and I don't know Mr. Cooley. And I'm one of those people, I like to sort of keep a neutral attitude about something that I hear on the internet, because now you don't know what's true, you don't know what's false, you don't know how things can be distorted. Um, I just, I saw this young lady. She had a post on social media about her dad, who is Terry Cooley. Apparently, Terry Cooley was Beyonce's stage manager for over 2 decades. Mr. Cooley is now dealing with some financial troubles. It started when, allegedly, according to his daughter, Beyonce's managers fired him. He was dealing with some health issues, and he could no longer, I guess, physically keep up with the job. He didn't have the stamina to keep up with whatever he did before, and so he was let go. And as a result of him being fired, he has faced many different financial crises. And so his daughter has gone to the internet, sort of like she's trying to get people to contact Beyonce, because she said that, share the video with Beyonce and at her, and maybe she will make things right. I think those were her words. So there are some life lessons here that we can learn. Again, it's not about Beyonce, it's not about Mr. Cooley, it's about the lesson. Do not miss the lesson, because there are some powerful lessons in this story that we all can learn from. We can glean so many critical things, and maybe we won't be in the situation that Mr. Cooley is in. So my heart goes out to anybody who is suffering. And I know what it feels like when you think you have been loyal to a situation or a person, and you've sacrificed, and then you're not getting back something you think you deserve. But let me tell you, and this is really hard, we are all responsible for our own financial situation. And it doesn't matter. People don't necessarily have to give us something that we think we deserve because we were loyal or we were faithful. So let me get right into this lesson, but that's a painful life lesson, but I just believe that it's true. And so once we take full ownership and full responsibility for our lives, we can better position ourselves so that we're not feeling like a victim to something that we cannot control. So let's get into it. I have not taken notes. God help me. I prayed. And I want to get into this podcasting thing, but you all know I'm a full-time educator. I have not taken notes. I'm just sort of speaking from my heart. And because I am trying to retire every single day, I think about retirement. I'm over 60 now, and so every day it's a thought. But I have learned some things about this, and there's some things that you need to think about, especially if you're young. You want to prepare for retirement. If you're young and you're listening to this, there's an old saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. You must plan for your retirement. You must plan for financial crises and emergencies. And if you don't plan for those things yourself, Is it anybody else's responsibility, regardless of how loyal, regardless of how faithful or how much you sacrifice, and regardless of how much money those other people have? So, this is something to really think about, and I'm going to get into it. Let's get into it. And again, thank you so much for listening and learning with me. So, I want to emphasize again that I do not know any of these people. I just saw a story in the media, social media, about a man who worked for Beyonce for 2 decades, and his daughter has gone to the internet, I guess, to sort of get people to feel empathy, to, I don't know, get people to rally with her, to get Beyonce to help her father out financially because he worked for Beyonce for over 2 decades. Now that he has faced some health challenges and he's no longer physically able to do his job the way he did, and he can no longer work, he is facing a financial situation, very unfortunate financial situation. And the daughter said in her video, and I'm going to put a link to the video that I watched in the description box. If you're listening to this from Spotify, it will be on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already, to my budding YouTube channel. And but anyway, the question, first of all, the first, let's go over some lessons. So number one, I don't know if this young lady tried to contact Beyonce directly. I think one of the biggest life lessons that we can glean from this, we have to be very careful about making personal situations public. And the best way, and I think the righteous way to do things, is to first directly go to a person and make sure that when you go to them, you are direct on what you want and what you need. A lot of times people tell a story, and they're talking about the problem, but they're not talking about the solution. So I don't know if this young lady went directly to Beyonce and said, "Hey, I'm the daughter of Terry Cooley, your former manager, and my daughter's going on hard times. Can you help?" I don't know if that's what she did. That's number one, but that's what she should have done. Before she took to the internet, before any of us go to the internet, we really shouldn't go to the internet. We really should not go. But she should have gone, tried to contact Beyonce directly. I don't know if Beyonce literally looks at her direct messages on social media. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. Maybe someone handles that. And but that's what should have been done first. And maybe the young lady did it because again, there are details about this story. I always say there are layers and layers and layers of details that go into a story that we do not see. I just saw her post. It was a very emotional plea, a very emotional post about her father. It's very clear that she loves her father. So that's a life lesson. I was on social media maybe about 3 months ago, and someone that I work with did a post about a former business partner. My former coworker alleged that her former business partner had stolen money from her, had used her credit, used her credentials to open up multiple accounts. And she alleged that the person had gotten about, it was a lot of money, like $50,000, like a huge amount of money. And my former coworker was saying that she debated about doing the post publicly. She didn't really want to do it. She had a picture. She had a picture of her and the person. And she basically said she finally decided to come forth publicly because it was a warning to anybody else who might wanted to get involved with this lady. But she also wanted people to know what had happened because apparently she and this person, they had started a nonprofit organization together. Once she found out that the person had used her credentials and stolen her identity, so so to speak, she was like, I want people to know what happened. I want to have transparency because it is a nonprofit. Sometimes you do have to go to social media, I guess, if it is a public, because she used social media to get people to support this nonprofit. She was then saying, okay, these people who are following me on social media, I was posting about this nonprofit. We're doing all these things, but now we're not because of this and that. She wanted to warn people. If you could avoid going to social media about something public, I think that is the most righteous thing to do. Maybe, and I'm still not sure. There are situations where you should go public about it because it is going to affect the public. And the public needs to know because whenever someone is a danger to the public that can hurt people in the public, maybe that's the time you go. But in this situation with Beyoncé and Mr. Cooley, I don't know if his daughter should have taken this route. Maybe she did try to contact someone from Beyonce's management team and they didn't respond and out of desperation, but that's the number one life lesson. Try not to take your personal business to social media, even if it's good. I have even changed how I post my personal life. I don't even, my daughter and I, we do a lot. We do a lot, but I do not post it. In the past, I have posted things, and in the past, I have posted some personal things. And usually there are things that are good, but now I'm strictly business. I only have one personal social media account, and on that account, if anybody looked at it, they're going to see a lot about books and about literacy and things like that, educational things, because I do not post my personal life, my travels. I just don't do it. And if you want to have a private life, which is very hard to do in 2026, in the 21st century with all the technology, it's best not to do personal posts, especially if it's something negative. Um, there is a person that is connected to both my daughter. This person knows my daughter, so that's how I know her, and we're sort of all connected. And she has done some posts that are very personal, and basically she's taken to social media to badmouth people and to badmouth, to talk negatively on situations. Because of that, I will not do any activity with her. Even though I get invites all the time, I will never, because let's just say she finds faults in a flaw or faults in what I do, and then I got, now it's all blasted. I want to keep I want to keep some things private. I don't want all my flaws and all my faults and all my mistakes to be in the media if I can help it. So it's just not good to do. It's not righteous. It's unnecessary. Unless a person is a threat to the public, there is no need to go to the public. Now, that's the first thing. Number two, the young lady alleges that her father, well, what I think she is suggesting that her father should have received some type of severance package. Her father couldn't physically keep up with the demands of being a stage manager, and he worked for Beyonce for over 2 years, over 2 decades, over 20 years. She does have receipts. Her father was very loyal, sacrificed his life, and basically sacrificed his body for Beyonce. Big life lessons here. So many. Let's deal with number one. Number two, number one is you need to prepare for the days that you cannot work. I have had a business where I was working that business full time. I've been an educator full time for over 3 decades. I have never in my life felt like I couldn't be fired, or I couldn't lose my job, or I couldn't lose the income flow. I've never felt that way. I have always been aware, and you need to be too, that some kind of way there can be a change, there can be a shift, and the money that you once had, you may not have. So, what you have to do, as my great aunt used to say, you have to prepare for war in a time of peace. You have to prepare for financial emergencies when you do have finances, because no one can take care of my bills and their bills too. I don't know of a single person that can pay all my bills and then pay all their bills. So who's responsible for my financial situation? Me. And that is a hard life lesson for everybody, for Mr. Cooley, for Mr. Cooley's daughter. Your father was, young lady, was responsible for his own financial situation. He had to save and prepare and plan for medical emergencies, financial emergency shifts, and anything can happen at any time. I marvel that people live like that because I've never lived like that. I've always known I don't have anybody to call. If something happens to me financially, there is nobody I could go to and say, hey, loan me enough money to pay all my bills. So, therefore, because I didn't have that, I understood I needed to save as much as I could. I need to live way below my means. I needed to prepare because I understood no one is responsible for my financial situation but me. In an ideal world, if somebody had money and they could help you out and they would help you out, that would be beautiful. That would be utopia. Unfortunately, we don't live, usually, most of us, we don't live in that kind of world. You have to prepare. She mentioned the daughter, Mr. Cooley's daughter, mentioned that her father had used his savings. I guess the first time that he went through some kind of financial crisis, he had used his savings and that money ran out. And of course, he was trying to go back and work again. And I can relate to a certain extent because I, several things happened. I'll just not get into all the details, but several things happened. And I decided to leave education for a while and pursue my business dreams. One of the things that I did not want to do was die with all my dreams and goals in me because I had seen a person die. I'd seen a person take her last breath. I was holding her hand and that person died with so many dreams and goals in her. And I was like, I'm not going out like that. And so I stepped out on faith, and maybe it's foolishness, maybe somebody would argue, and I decided to pursue my dreams. I don't regret that. I'm grateful that I did that because I always say sometimes you have to get what you don't want to know you don't want it, or you have to really experience what you think you want to understand all the details that go with you having that goal and doing that thing that you think you wanted. And there's a joke I tell all people all the time, and my daughter, she knows about this, is that when I had my business, we made a lot of good memories. I actually was successful. I made an impact in the community. But what I was not making was any money. So I had to make a shift, and by the grace of God, I was able to make a shift, and I was able to go back to something that I love doing, and I was able to restore my finances through that thing. But it was not easy because I loved my business. I loved the impact that I was making. I loved what I was doing, but I wasn't making enough money. And that is a life lesson that you can never ever forget. So, number one, number two, and number three, you are responsible for your financial situations. We are responsible for our own lives and what happens to us. If you decide to sacrifice your body and your time, the daughter mentioned that her father worked 22-hour days, that he would only get a few hours of sleep. And in order for Beyonce to look good on stage and have whatever she needed, he sacrificed himself. Another powerful life lesson. You might want to rethink that. That's my whole life change because you can sacrifice your body, your time, your whatever. And guess what? If you were to fall out and die, or just in her father's case, he can no longer do the job. Guess what happened? He was replaced. Somebody else took the position that he once had that he could no longer do, and it moved on as if he never existed. That's humbling. That's a life lesson you can never ever forget. That's why, you know what, when I on my job, and I don't want to be irresponsible. I love what I do as a teacher, and I take pride in being a teacher who cares and who wants to have a level of excellence. And I want my students to be successful. That is my measurement to if whether or not I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's not, I don't measure anything else. I measure, are my students learning? Have they progressed? And some of that can be translated on paper, and some of it can't. Some of it can be quantified and some of it can't. However, what I understand, no matter how much time I sacrifice, no matter how much I put into this profession, when I leave, it will go on as if I didn't even exist. Therefore, I'm not sacrificing everything. If I can't do it when I'm on the job, it won't get done. I will have to do it there. And I am at the point now, now I'm older, I'm a little bit older, I'm over 60 now, and I've worked in this profession for a long time, and I've made money in a lot of different ways. This is the easiest way to make money, but I have made more money, but it's a little bit harder to make it, but I have. But my point is that I'm not going to sacrifice my health, my body, and everything for a job that will replace me in a day, in an hour. And that's a life lesson that's very painful, but you got to get it. It's good to go to work and do your best and bring the very best you can to your job in those spaces. However, always understand that you are replaceable. And at some point, you will be replaced. And it will go on as if you weren't there. And then when they go on and you have not adequately prepared, then you're the one at home suffering with the physical issues, with the financial issue, all of those things. You must learn to keep a balance. You cannot sacrifice everything for your job. And this is something else I learned a long, long time ago. You cannot just depend on one source for your money. I when I was in my late 20s, I remember I was like, you know what? I don't want to be poor. I want to live a better life. And I started praying to God saying, how is it can I get money legally? What are some things I can do to increase my income? Because as a teacher back in the day, this was in the late 90s, I was not making any money. I'm talking, I was in Florida and they were not paying. They pay a lot more now. And right now they pay more of a living wage. But back then, man, I was not making anything. And I remember just crying out to God and saying, God, show me, give me wisdom, teach me. And God started to show me ways that I could add to my income as a teacher. And He showed me things I had to do. And some of those things were moving and other things. But the bottom line is you can't put, they say, well, you can't put all your marbles in one basket. You can't. And this is unfortunate that Mr. Cooley is facing these medical problems, and he's had to have surgery, and he has to have this, and he has to have that, and he doesn't have any money. But that is the brutal reality of life. If when I leave my job, they're going to keep going as if I didn't exist. They can replace me within an hour. I could say, you know what, I'm leaving. And within an hour, they will have another permanent teacher in my position. And I never forget that. That is why I do not make my job my God. When I first started teaching, I would work in the evenings. I would work on the weekends. I would work all through the holidays. And I remember we had a faculty member to die. This is when I was at another school years ago, and how it changed my life. She went to bed one night and didn't get back up. And that morning, it was so eerie because when we opened up our email, she had sent us an email, like right before she went to bed, she had sent out an email to teachers. And at that time, she was trying to coordinate tutorials for our students because at that time in Georgia, they had this high stakes test. She was a part of the ELA department, and she was working on tutorials for the ELA part of the test. She was an alumna of that school, so she was very vested. She had a lot of different positions and roles, and she was a mother of a young son. This young lady went to bed, did not wake up, and I'm reading her email, and she is transitioned. She is not on this side anymore. And it was so eerie, and it taught me a lesson. And I know that some say she had health issues, but I believe that her having all these different roles and the stress of the job only hastened her premature death. And it only exacerbated the health problems that she had. Stress will kill you. I'm going to say it 3 times. Stress will kill you. Stress will take you off this planet. And a lot of our stress is connected to our jobs. Yes, we need them. Yes, it is a way for us to be able to take care of the financial obligations that every human being has. But you got to understand, and this is where my faith comes in. This is where my faith in the Most High God is stronger than it's ever been. I believe that God will provide. And I do not put my job first. God is first, my family is second, and my job is somewhere third or fourth. And I have asked, and God has shown me I make money in different ways. And God will tell you, according to the gifts that He has given you, how to do that. Because if this job, they told me tomorrow, you got to go. You got to go. I have already prepared to go. I have already financially prepared. From the moment that I went back into teaching, I understood, okay, I'm physically, I don't know if I could keep doing the job the way that I used to could do it. And you're dealing with a different kind of learner. You're dealing with learners that if they have to give up their cell phones, they literally seem like they're going to lose their minds. So I have been prepared for a while. Like if I have to leave, I I love what I do so much that I would almost do it for free. And I'm trying to figure out how to do it where I don't have some of the constraints and I don't have some of the restrictions and I don't have the stress because I really love what I do. And to be honest, I have opportunities to do it. People, when I first, because of I have a very unique certification class, and people ask me to tutor them. People come to me, and I can't even do it. So there's so many ways to make money other than just one particular job. And what we got to do is, since we're in the digital age, you got to figure out a way to make your money digitally. And some people are doing it. And it has to be, though, according to your strengths. So while Mr. Cooley cannot physically go to his job, this man could start a course on how to be a stage manager. He could put together a course, put it on a platform. He could have his own platform, or he could put it on master class. You gotta be praying to the Most High God, and He will give you ideas. So while he can't physically be on the job, he can still be working and still be generating income. I get what the daughter was trying to do. She saw her father suffering. She saw her father hurting. And it is bad. It is bad when you sacrifice, you're loyal, you give so much of yourself. But here's the question: is Beyonce obligated to help him beyond what she already did? Because he was already being paid. He didn't work for free. She paid him when he was working. Well, now he's not working anymore. He can't work. Should she continue to pay him? Is she still responsible for him? I would say that no. And I'm looking at it too from a business point of view. You got to understand, I am a business owner. I still own businesses. I have just started a new business, and I'm telling you, if I had an employee and they could not work for me, I could not continue to pay them. In fact, we do have a person on payroll, and I don't pay her because she has not worked for us. Now, if we did something and she worked with us, I would give her some money. Do you pay a person, and even though they were loyal and they were trustworthy, and I love this person with everything, am I still obligated to pay her if she's not working? And the answer is no. Now, I'm in a different situation. I think the reason why this man's daughter is looking at this situation a little bit differently than I am, because Beyonce supposedly is very rich. I think Forbes now has announced that she is a billionaire. And so maybe the young lady is thinking, well, if Beyonce is a billionaire and my dad helped to make her look good on stage because he's the one that put all these things together, shouldn't he have, even if it's a very, 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 very small piece, should he have a small piece of her fortune? And maybe that's the way she's thinking. And that seems unfair, but that is a brutal reality of life. that really, I used to hear this, and this is hard, but I used to hear people say that the world owes you nothing, like no man owes you anything. And that's hard because really they don't, but maybe we should help people if we can. And, but they don't help. That's the thing. That's tough because really no man does owe you anything. We are responsible for our own financial situations. And what you have to do, and I'm a witness because again, every single day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about retirement. There's not a, I'm telling you right now, every day, and not because, again, not because I don't love my work. I love what I do. I love my students. What it is that I'm physically tired because I have done it for so long and I have worked almost all of my life. I started working as a teen, and I think I need a break, and I know that I need a break. And so that's it for me. That's what it's about. But I prayed, and every day I pray for God to show me ways that I can add financially to my situation, to add value so that I can retire and I don't have to beg for money, that I don't have to try to push my body or go beyond the limits until I just totally break down. And that's what it seems like Mr. Cooley did. You can, if you get only 3 hours. His daughter mentioned something like he got 3 hours of sleep or something, or that was somewhere in one of the videos. And you can't do that. You need 8 hours, and you cannot help anybody, not even yourself, if you sacrifice your body and your health. Your health is what allows you to be able to do everything. So again, I want to encourage you, when you're at your job, you give 110%. You do what you're supposed to do within reason. But just know, if you decide, because it's a decision, that man made a decision to sacrifice and not get any sleep. And apparently when you're a stage manager, there's a lot of physical work that goes into that. If you make that choice, then you have to accept the consequences. Very painful. You got to accept the consequences. That's why, again, if I can do my job on my job, I will do it. If I can't, I won't. Now, I am going to sacrifice. Sound like what they call a hypocrite. I am going to sacrifice a little bit, and I'm going to do some things at home because I have so many other things personally to take care of. And and I was so busy taking care of those personal things that there are some things on my job that I have to do, and I'm going to do them. I'm going to do them probably tomorrow, God willing, and the creek don't rise. And every now and then you do have to burn the midnight oil, and you do have to bite the bullet, but you got to be careful. If you can't handle it, don't do it. Because again, they would replace me in an hour, and it would be as if I never existed. And that's for everybody. Even if you are good at what you do, even if you are the best of the best, it will keep going. The earth will continue to rotate on its axis. And if that doesn't humble you, I don't know what will. You have to remember that, and that will keep you humble, and it will keep you focused on what you need to be focused on. Because I know that I could lose my job. I never. Now I'm sick, over 60 years old. I've never felt like, oh, I'm just going to keep getting paid. My daughter will tell you I don't think like that. I've always been a person that, first of all, you got to live way below your means. I live way below my means. I've always saved because I understood something can happen to me. And if I can't work, what am I going to do? And you have to think like that, and you have to prepare. And I don't care how much money you make, you got to save some money. And I'm going to end with this. Here are 3 things that you must do with your money. And I talked about banking, Beyoncé, business and banking, because this is really about a financial situation that's very unfortunate. But here are 3 things I learned. Number 1, you do need credit. If you live in the United States, you do need credit, and to have credit, you got to pay your bills. So the number 1 thing is you must have integrity, and you must have righteousness, and you must have honesty. You pay people what you owe. In this world, if we have to pay for things. Most people have to pay for a place to stay. They have to pay for transportation and gas and electricity and phones and all these things. Pay your bills. There are people that they don't pay their bills. They get their money and they just do whatever they want, and they're like, okay, I'll figure it out later. And then in the process, not having that integrity in the end, that's going to backfire in a very negative way. So always do your best to pay your bills, because credit does matter. And if you did need to borrow money, even though I don't recommend that, if you can help it, but if you did need to do that, guess what? You have a better chance of doing it and saving a lot of money, because you've shown through your habits, through your practices, that you're trustworthy, that you will take something, but you will give back what you owe. Number 2, and this is critical, always save. I don't care what you make, honey, I save, and I'm going to save some more. I start going through different things, and and people laugh at this, but I say when I start going through stress, especially on my job, what it does, it just makes me increase my savings. It helps me to buy some more stocks and bonds, because that means I don't know how long I have, and so I've got to prepare. But I don't care what you make, save your money. Now you have to monitor your money, because I'm telling you right now, and I mentioned this, there were some people that tried to use my credentials to get loans and to get credit cards, and you got people that are out there now just working overtime to take what you have worked for. Everything I have gotten through sweat. I have gotten through tears. I have gotten through sacrifice. I have even gotten through blood. I have worked very hard. And there are other people out here too who everything they have had to work for. They were not born with a golden spoon. They were not born with a silver spoon. They are from the school of hard knocks, and they started from the bottom, and they had to work for everything. And I'm that person. And it is very painful to know that you can work hard and people out here trying to steal what you work for. So when you save, you got to understand, because we live in a digital world, people see your savings and they are out here working overtime. And I rebuke them in the name of the Most High God, in the name of Jesus. And my prayer for them is not only that they cannot take my money, but they will never be able to take anybody's money in the name of Jesus. And not only they will not, but anybody that's connected to them, who is colluding with them, who is collaborating with them, they will be shut down in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. So where you save, gotta understand the world you're living in. You have to save, but you also have to make sure you're safeguarding what you're saving. But that's the only way to survive a financial crisis. I live in a house, and my house needs a lot of work. I got to pray over that because I got to get a renovation done. But I have had a pipe burst in my yard, and to get that pipe fixed, it was $2,300. Because my county said, look, you got a leak outside. If you don't fix it, we're going to shut this water off. Who can survive without water in their home? And I had to pay that. But see, by the grace of God and having that money saved, I was able to do that. I have had to have plumbing work done. The last time we had it was weird because we had a lot of stuff going on at the same time. Sink was backed up. Then the hot water heater started acting crazy. It was just crazy. They had a new thing now where when you get a new hot water heater, you have to put in an entirely new system. So it wasn't just a simple, let me replace my old hot water heater tank. No, I had to get an entire different system. $2,300, $2,700. I've had it where my car one time, another car that I had years ago, and something happened, $1,000. See, if you don't prepare for those financial emergencies when they happen, because they're going to happen, it's not if you're going to have a rainy day, it is when. You must prepare. And then, if you don't have the credit, this is why I go back to first paying your bills. So if you didn't have the money, you could go back and you get the credit for it to be able to take care of these and then pay that off. But if you don't have that credit, you can't do that. So you have to have the money. Again, save your money and safeguard it. Because again, let me tell you, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke these thieves, these demons. I used to tell my daughter all the time, it's an evil force. And she said, Mom, I used to laugh at you, but she saw something. And that's how they personify these people who get on the internet and they try to take what you work for And she was saying on this show, they personified it like a demon or devil. And that's what it is. These people work for Satan himself. But you have to pray, and you have to safeguard, and you have to save, and you have to fight. So that's the hard part. Now here's the part where you really get blessed, and this is gonna blow your mind. I've already talked about two things you gotta do with money. I said there are three things you gotta do. Number one, you gotta always pay your bills. You gotta be righteous in your financial dealings. You cannot not pay people what you owe. You cannot not pay your bills for so many reasons. It's wrong. It's going to mess you up in the end. It's irresponsible. You got to do the right thing with money. Number two, you have to save and safeguard. And I say save, but now because of the digital world, you really, really have to make sure, because I've seen stories where people had their homes stolen. People have had their entire savings stolen. You have to be diligent. I'm going to do another podcast on that. And I told you, those demons that tried to get me, baby, let me tell you something, they shut down. They may seem like they're operating now, but honey, when I tell you my prayers are effective, they will not be able to get my money and no one else's money. Now, what I pray, and people can change and they can turn and they can be healed, that they will seek the face of the Most High God so they can figure out a way to legally and honestly get money, because we need it. And that's my prayer. I pray that prayer myself. I said, God, you know what? Show me how I can honestly and righteously and legally get money that and according to the gifts that you have given me. Everybody is different. And with Mr. Cooley, he needs to he could, if he was a stage manager, he could teach stage managing. It's so many things he could do. He may not physically be able to be a stage, he could write a book. I did a podcast once, and see, you don't know who's listening to the podcast because it's little old me, and I don't have a lot of subscribers and I don't have a lot of listeners, but I just feel compelled that God keeps telling me, keep doing these podcasts. And I did a podcast, this was last year, about going from crying to creating. And what the inspiration for that podcast was, this actress who was crying about not having enough money or not getting paid the money that she felt she was due. This is an actress now, by the way, who is a multi-millionaire, but she still felt like she didn't get enough. So I said, go from crying to creating. And one of the things I suggested that she should do was write a book. Why not? She wrote a book. She wrote a book, and she has more money now. And I'm telling you, there are ways to make money. And I hope, it seems like Mr. Cooley's daughter, who went to the internet to cry, I hope she will go from crying to creating, help her father now. Because she basically said something to the effect of, well, my brothers and I, my siblings and I, we don't have enough money to help our parents or take care of him. Well, guess what? That's a personal issue, and it's very painful, but you're going to have to help him create. I hope to God that someone will speak to her and say, and I don't even have a personal account to be able to respond to her. I'm only on Facebook. That's it. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Instagram anymore. I deleted all of my personal accounts. But I want to let her know, if you listen to this and you can help her, she needs to go from whining to winning. She and her siblings, and they seem to be very educated, they need to come up with a way that Mr. Cooley can make some money, and it may not be off of Beyoncé. That if he's so talented and he was so gifted and he sacrificed for Beyoncé, let him sacrifice for himself. And since they're talking about his sacrifice and his dedication, then they may have to sacrifice and be dedicated to their dad the way he was to this superstar. You got to understand, it's painful, but guess what? You're responsible. And again, since I know that there is no one for me to call, I know people that, most people that I know, they're doing well financially. They're not necessarily struggling or suffering, but they don't have the money to pay my bills and their bills. And it's unreasonable for me to expect that. It's unreasonable. Over the years, I have given out a lot of money. And that's the last thing I want to lead to, is you got to give some money away. And I've given a lot of money to my former students who would call me. They were dealing with one financial situation after the other. And I thought, okay, it was about compassion. And I do believe you must have compassion. They're in a bad situation. They don't have any food to eat. They can't pay this bill. But what I learned was that when you give out your money that way and you don't teach people how to earn the money, they see you as an ATM. And my joke is ATM does not stand for a teacher's money. And I remember the last time I had a student to text me, and he had texted me before, like he was in a financial situation and he needed some money. And I felt bad. I didn't know the situation. I just sent the young man a little bit of money. It's not a lot, but I sent him something. Do you know he turned around and texted me again and said, "Can you send more?" And that's when I had to do something that I didn't want to do. I had to cut him off, because what happens is you become a bank for people, and I'm not in the banking business, and I don't have any money to take care of myself and other people. And even if I were a millionaire, which I strive to be, a billionaire, millionaire, I strive to have more money one day. I want to give out money, and that's the last thing I want to leave with. If you really want to be blessed, give away what you want. If you want money, give some money away. But you do have to be wise about that kind of stewardship. You want to give to situations where they're going to use the money to empower people. And it's not going to be like a bandage over a situation. You've heard this saying probably 1,000 times: if you give a man a fish, he will eat for one day. But if you teach a man how to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. You must give some money away, but you want to give it away to situations, organizations, and people where they're going to empower, and that money is going to grow and allow people to be able to be independent and responsible for themselves. So, and yes, help people save lives. You want to give to those kinds of situations. And that's what I do. I'm really careful, and I do pray. A lot of people do come to me, and I get it. They're trying to put on an event, and because I've been on that side, I give. But I have to, at the same time, I'm really mindful. If it's going to put a bandage on something and it's not really going to help that person long term, I'm a little bit reluctant. Sometimes I will give one time, and then I'll say, okay, this is all I can give you this time, because I don't want, I'm not a bank. I don't have money, and I don't have money like that. Trust and believe, in the world of money, I don't have money like that. But I do believe in having compassion. I do believe when you give money, you will get money. And especially when you give to situations where it's really empowering to that person or that organization, and it's going to allow more good things to happen. So always do those three things. Number one, let's go over them one more time, is number one, always be righteous with your money. Pay your bills. Pay the bills because it's righteous. If you borrow money, pay it back. If you got a house, that's a loan, pay that money back. You got a car, whatever you got to pay these people back. Number two, save your money. It is not a matter of if there will be an emergency, if there will be a rainy day. There is going to be a rainy day. There are going to be emergencies. That is inevitable. You can't evade it. It's going to happen, and you want to try to position yourself in the best possible way by having money for that. Apparently, Mr. Cooley did have a savings. Apparently, it ran out. Um, my heart, again, I grieve, but at the same time, we are all responsible for our own lives. And apparently, this young lady came to social media, but I think she has two siblings. I think she has two brothers. Now you all have to come together and use the intelligence, the spiritual intelligence, the intellect, use it to come up with a way that your dad can make some money and he's not using his physical body. And you have to save. So you want to do that. But then you have to safeguard. I want to just emphasize that. But boy, oh boy, because now you're in the digital world, and these people can see your money, they can access your accounts, and you got to be really careful. Over and over, every day there's a sad story where somebody had their life savings, or what they worked for, stolen. So you have to be diligent. You got to save, but you got to also safeguard. And here's the one where you really get blessed. You have to give away some money. Life is like a garden, and whatever seeds you plant are the seeds that grow up in your life. If you, I have an experimental garden in my classroom, and we grew some collard greens, and those collard greens grew. And I took some home before the break because we were on winter break, and I cooked them. They were absolutely delicious, so tender. But I didn't have tomatoes because I didn't plant tomatoes. I did not have onions because I didn't plant onions. I planted collard greens. And that's what you have to do. You have to plant financial seeds, and those seeds will also come in your own life. And it is without fail. And you just have to give from your heart. I'm not saying just give just so that you can get, but you do have to give from your heart. You do have to have a lot of compassion. I remember one day I gave some money to one of my coworkers. She had experienced a death in her family, and I didn't think about it. It just something compelled me to give her a card and give her a little financial gift. And this is a person who had been very not so nice to me, and I know some things that she doesn't know I know. But for some reason, I just let the Holy Spirit lead me, and I just said, okay, I'm going to give her this gift. That same day, I went to the mailbox, and out of the blue, a friend of mine had sent me some money, and it was like double what I had given this person. And it was just random. Like she just randomly sent me this, and just like, I just want to thank you and blah blah blah. And I was like, wow. And I did not give to get anything back, but it just happens. You just have to give. You do have to use wisdom in your giving. You do have to let people know you're not a bank. You don't have money to give. And so you do have to be careful about that. But when you give, I'm telling you, it will come back. When you're out here trying to help either individuals or organizations and support them and empowering people, I'm telling you what I know, not what I think, not what I read or what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. You will be financially blessed. The people who never give, they never get. There's something to that. You gotta cast that seed. Now, do we get weeds? Yes, we get weeds. When I tell you these people who tried to steal my identity, first thing that was interesting is when I shared it with some people, a couple of people were like, "Oh, it happened to me," and I was like, "Wow, it's happened to so many people." When I tell you that they could not get one penny, they could not get one single penny. And here's what's so crazy: somebody managed, and I don't know how they did this. They managed to open up an account in my name. They didn't put any money in it. I don't know how this happened. But again, we live in a digital world. But then they used my physical address. So what they tried to do was, once they opened the account, they tried to change the address. You know what happens when you do that? They sent a confirmation to the old address. So I actually have the address, their new address. I'm talking about the people that tried to steal my identity and my money. I have their physical address or the address that they use because we don't know. And I'll never forget one of my students that I would tell about because I had my students pray for me, and I'm telling you, a prayer got through. Somebody prayed and got through. When you had the children, pray out for you. I was like, pray for your teacher. You know what one of my students said? You ready to ride out? You ready? You ready to ride out, Miss Hardy? I was like, oh, you what? You the what? But I have the address. No, I have. I'm going to let the spiritual work do what it does. And I want to end with that. Y'all, this is a spiritual podcast. And the subtitle of this was Spiritual Lessons from Terry Cooley's story. Y'all, don't forget to pray. The power of talking and listening to God. That's what prayer is. It is talking and listening. Let me tell you something. Prayer is powerful. I spend a lot of my time praying. And you don't want to do God on the go. You don't want to do that. You want to really take some time to talk to God and have some deep conversations and reflection and fellowship with God. And let me tell you, He will provide. He will help you. He will guide you. He will give you wisdom. Because I am thinking about retirement so much, and I have to think about, okay, I'm retiring from maybe physically getting up and going to work. I still want to work because there's so many things that God has allowed me to be able to do and I can do. And so I was like, God, show me, what can I do? Because I still want to work. But I may not want to, get up at 5 o'clock anymore, what I can do. And He showed me there are so many things you can do. And that would be my message to Mr. Cooley's daughter for her and her siblings and her mother to come up with a way that her father can get money on his own. And from the gifts, if he's able to be a stage manager for over 20 years, that's a gift. And he may not be physically able to keep up, but if his mind is sharp, things that he can do and still earn money. And there is so much he can do other than just begging for other people. I get it. I remember when I was trying to open up a bookstore, and I knew that it would cost a substantial amount of money to open the store, to have the money for inventory, to have the money to hire people, to have the money to keep us going for maybe 6 months until we can start to generate some income. So I came up with this great idea. If I had 100,000 people to give me one single dollar, if I had 100,000 people to just give me $2, I could open this bookstore, because it really wasn't about me. It was about the community. And money wasn't in the forefront of my mind, because I wasn't thinking about being a millionaire. I was thinking about literacy, my passion, and how our community needed something. We needed like a community center. We needed to teach, have classes on Saturdays. We need to have Saturday school. I had all this these lofty ideas, excuse me, and nobody would give me the money. I could not get people to give me $1, baby. And it hurt. It hurt a little bit. And I get it. And they say that, beggars are not respected or whatever, but I did try to start a GoFundMe, and it didn't happen. We did raise a little money, but it was only a fraction. And I learned a lot of things from that. I learned, number one, people just don't want to give you any money, because if they saw, if I raised $200,000 online, they wouldn't be thinking about, oh, she's getting ready to build a community center. They'd be thinking about, I'm going to buy me some luxury car. I'm going to take a vacation with that money. And because that's what they would do many times. So it didn't happen. And I just learned, you can beg, you can cry, nothing's going to happen. You got to go from crying to creating. You got to go from whining to winning. And that's why I started teaching that message, because I had gone through it myself. I was out here trying to cry and get people to help me, and nobody was obligated to help me, and nobody did. A few people did, and I want to thank God for those people. Those people don't know how blessed they are. But nevertheless, it was a powerful lesson for me. We're responsible for um, our own financial obligations. We determine how much money we're going to have. And if something is God's will, it's his bill. And we must go to God, and we must ask God to guide us, because we live in a world where you have to pay for stuff. Even if I paid off my home, which God willing will happen soon, I still have to pay for maintenance. I still have to pay for other bills. Even if you pay off your car, which I've paid off many, you still got to pay to maintain it. You got to pay for the brakes. You got to pay to get the car tuned up. You got to pay for tire. You never can not need money. So you have to be asking God to show you how to be wise with your money and how to generate money. And they call it passive income, where you're not exerting so much of yourself physically. And this is the great time to do it. Let me tell you, this is the great time to do it, because we're in the digital world. But y'all pray that God will give you wisdom, and pray that you don't have to steal anybody else's money, because like I said before, those people don't understand. They curse with a curse. I'm in a way, let me see how I'm going to say this. I'm not glad that happened, that they tried to steal my identity and my credentials, but I can tell you, if they had not, I probably would not have prayed the way I had prayed about that. So a lot of people will be caught. They will be shut down. They will not be able to hurt people by taking what is not theirs and what people have worked so hard for. And I pray that they will use the power that God has given them, because it's a divine power that we're all born with, the power to create for themselves. And it's according to your own gifts. God has given me gifts. I know what they are now. I'm so glad I finally know what they are, and I plan to use them, and God has shown me how to use them, and that's what we have to do. So, peace and abundant blessings to each of you. That is my podcast episode. Beyoncé Business and Banking Spiritual Lessons from Terry Cooley's story. I hope that this episode blessed you, inspired you, enlightened you in some way. I hope it was thought provoking. Don't forget to like this video if it helped you. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me. This is an audio. Even though I'm putting something on YouTube, it's still going to be audio for the most part. But still, make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. Take care. Again, thank you for listening and learning with Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Cherie Hardy. Peace and abundant blessings to you and your family.